Hey everyone, for today I'm going to tell you about wine and show you the basics of wine tasting. This is the bottle we're going to use for our little lesson today, one of my favorite wines from Chile. And as indicated in the title, I will assume you know absolutely nothing about wine and try to keep things as simple as possible, which is fine, I think, because the world of wine is often a bit too intimidating for the newcomers. It is full of codes and specific terms, which is justified in a way, because the pleasure of senses may require a bit of education, but still, this is just pleasure we are talking about, so let's keep it cool and enjoyable. First, let's talk a little bit about the glasses. This is the typical wine glass, and as you see, it has a long stem which is made to carry your glass without touching the upper part and heating up the content. And the glass itself has a tulip shape, and it should be filled at this level because this is where the surface of contact is going to be maximized with the air. And we will see that this is important for wine to free its flavors. When you have several glasses, the largest one is always for water, the second largest for red wine, and the smallest for white wine. And today we are going to use the red wine one, given the wine I picked for the test. There are other glasses using this tulip shape. This is a glass made for cognac, and you see the idea here is different. It is to eat your drink up with the hand, contrary to what is generally done with wine. So this is the bottle we're going to open today, and as you see, this is a Chilean Carmenere. This probably deserves a bit of an explanation here, because when it comes to wine, the quantity of brand names, regions, and varieties of grapes can be a bit confusing. In many countries in the world, including in the US, it is very common to name a wine after the vines, the variety of grapes used to produce it. So any wine will have a brand name, the name of the producer, but it is more often referred to as a Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Chardonnay, which is the vine used to produce it. Now in Europe, and especially in France, wines are generally named after the region they come from. It can be Bordeaux, Bourgogne, Champagne, even though the same vines are used to produce these wines. For example, Champagne is essentially made with Chardonnay, But to use these appellations, these labels of origin, these wines have to be specifically produced in these regions, and they have to respect a certain production process. French wines are also often blends of various vines, of various varieties of grapes. Enough talking for now. We're going to open the bottle. This is just to remove the metallic protection of the cork, and this is the typical corkscrew to remove it. This may require a bit of practice. You put the corkscrew well in the center of the cork. Now you can take out the cork and smell it, because it has been in contact with the wine inside the bottle for a long time, and the smell of the cork can immediately tell you whether the wine is still good to be drunk. If it smells like vinegar, it means that it's too late, the wine is dead. And I am adding this now just to avoid drops alongside the bottle. Now we're going to fill in the glass up to the limit I indicated before. And as I told you at the beginning, this is about senses, so tasting wine is something that can be made in 3 steps. First, we're going to watch. Second, we will smell. And finally, drink. To start with, if you look at the border of the wine, you will see that it can be shiny or matte, and in that case it tends to be shiny. I don't know how well you can see, and this indicates that there is acidity in the wine, which should bring a bit more vivacity when you drink it. Another thing to watch is obviously the color. Red wines, when they are young, tend to have a ruby or purple color, and in their aging process they turn increasingly brown or brick. The same thing happens to white wines that start their lives with a golden or very yellow color, and then turn to amber and brick. And one last thing to watch is how the wine falls back when you have inclined or slightly shaked the glass. This tells you about the viscosity of the wine. If drops appear, this tends to indicate that the wine has a high degree of sugar and alcohol, and it's likely to be sweeter than if it looks more liquid. Now we can move to step 2 of our tasting. We're going to smell the wine, and this is going to tell us whether or not we need to use a decanter like this. A decanter, a carafe, is just like a big wine glass with a shape made to maximize contacts between wine and air because this contact and the chemical reactions that take place helps liberate the flavors enclosed within the wine. So the idea here is to smell wine twice. First, before the glass has been shaken too much, to get an immediate sense of how it smells when it gets out of the bottle, and then you shake the glass a little bit and smell a second time. If the smell is very similar, this means that the reaction with air is not really changing the wine, and that it's already opened, as experts say. In that case, you don't need and you don't even want to use the decanter, because the wine is ready to be drunk, and letting it in contact with oxygen could just spoil it. But if you realize when you smell it for the second time that the smell is much more complex and interesting, in that case it means that the wine you're tasting needs to be oxygenated to really release its potential, and in that case you may want to leave it in the decanter before serving. There are also countless aromas that can be smelt in wine, and this is one of the things that make its richness. At first, without any training or practice, you may think that it just smells wine, but with a bit of experience you start to realize that there are plenty of different smells. They can be fruity or floral, or spicy, woody, smoky, and within each of these families of smells there are many more. Like for many other things, when you start learning and investigating in wine, you realize that there is a complete world of sensations and possibilities in this drink. And now the third step has arrived. We're going to drink it. And what we want to do before we swallow wine is to let it circulate within the mouth, because there are various zones on our tongues responsible for perceiving sensations like acidity, sweetness, saltiness, bitterness. And in this third step, we're going to perceive all the tannins that are in the wine. The tannins are aromatic compounds that come from the skin of the grapes and give a wine its identity and capacity to develop aromas as it ages. Well, I hope you liked this quick introduction, and see you soon. Bye bye.